Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the first edition of the CCINP Regional Webinar Series, the Regional Economy Series. We're very proud today to be joined by two absolutely amazing speakers, and I'm sure that Xavier is going to say more about this in a moment, but I would just like to say that Rural Move is a partner that's very near and dear to our hearts here in the CCINP, being one of our institutional partners and a real cornerstone of what we try and do when we talk about a new economy for the rural areas, for areas that are otherwise a little bit neglected. Our president, Marisa Monteiro Borsboom, is actually one of the co-founders of Rural Move. Unfortunately, she could not be here today, which is why I'm opening it up instead. But I'm sure that she would be very, very happy to be here with everybody to see all the amazing work that's being done. And I'm sure that she would love nothing more than to know that this is the culmination of a lot of hard work. So very excited to hear what you both have to say. And I will now pass the floor to Xavier, who I believe is going to tell us a little bit more about the specific webinar of today.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Dirk. I believe you can hear me, right? Yeah, thank you very much. So, hi everyone. My name is Xavier Correia. I'm the head of startups from the Chamber of Commerce. As a Portuguese, I strongly believe, and I echo Dirk's words, but I strongly believe that rural region play a vital role in a Portuguese nation's economy and in the cultural identity. So there is an immense potential to be unlocked in these areas. At the same time, I believe that rural communities also face very real challenge. So finding ways to revitalize and support these regions, I believe is crucial to achieve a balanced growth across Portugal. So as my colleague Dirk said it pretty well, this first episode marks also the first edition of this regional economy series. Here we will explore the opportunities to live, work, and invest in Portuguese rural areas with concrete use cases and projects from our lovely speakers. So to open up this initiative, we are proud to have as guest speakers João Almeida, which is the founder of Rural Move and PhD research fellow from University of Aveiro, and Freya van Dien, founder of Ruralizar, and a real Dutch rural entrepreneur in Portugal. So without further ado, I would like to give the stage to João. João, feel free to share your screen and kick off your presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for this this first, I hope, of many webinars. Actually, we have been in touch with the CCNP, I think, since the beginning, actually. So it's good to get some things on the ground and things running, and from our previous meetings. And I hope also that this presentation will be a starting point to have more people engaged in this discussion. So I will share my screen in a moment. Okay. Okay. I think you are seeing my screen very well. I don't know, what are you seeing? Sorry.
We see now the PowerPoint.
Yeah. Just a minute, because okay. Okay, where it is. Sorry, just a minute, because I prefer to use the PDF file. So okay, this is it. Okay, but yeah, I will start. So we are going to talk about not just about Rural Move, but about some of the opportunities to live, work, and invest in Portuguese rural communities. So yeah, I'm a PhD research fellow working on entrepreneurship in rural areas, and also co-founder and now coordinator of Rural Move, which is a non-profit organization in Portugal, and at national level And yeah, we try to do it exactly this, to promote people, to get people to live, work, and invest in rural areas. So but first of all, let's start with the, well, less good side, less good sign. Portuguese rural areas face several challenges. So Portugal is a kind of centralized countries, and as you can see here, 80% of the people live in urban areas, and 80% of the municipalities, rural municipalities, lost population in the last 30 years. So we have in some of these municipalities a structural depopulation that then um, fosters a vicious cycle of lack of opportunities, lack of entrepreneurship, and then yeah, it worsens even more. But we believe, and that's why we created Rural Move, that there are opportunities that we can use to break this declining cycle. And yeah, these are some photos about those opportunities. So it's not just about agriculture. It's also about social innovation. It's about remote working. It's about culture. It's about education. It's about circular economy, green economy, and yeah, so those are sectors that I think could change this declining path of some of these rural areas in Portugal, but also across Europe. But after the invitation to this webinar, I was like, okay, let's see how we can cooperate a little bit more with the Dutch community. That yeah, actually, it's very interesting, a very interesting community, and it's also very interested in Portugal. So we have a strong partnership, I think, with the Dutch economy in terms of exports and also in terms of imports. Also, several cooperation in fields like energy, climate change, and the green economy. So, good news for the rural areas. And then we have also a very big Portuguese community living in the Netherlands, and also a very big Dutch community living in Portugal. So we have several also cultural programs by Instituto Camões, and several support also to do business in Portugal or in the Netherlands. And of course, we have this Chamber of Commerce and Industry that I think wants to reinforce this partnership between business entrepreneurs and the both communities. So, what are the opportunities, in my opinion, for Portuguese rural areas, and especially for the Dutch community? Of course, I will start with the tourism side. Of course, tourism. Portugal is one of the best destinations in Europe for several years, but not just in Europe. Actually, tourism economy is one of the engines of the Portuguese economy. So, and yeah, we know that Dutch people love to come to Portugal. So let's keep that rolling. And the rural areas can also be more engaged in this tourism dynamic, because most of the tourism in Portugal is still very connected with the cities like Lisbon and Porto, and of course the Algarve region. But besides tourism, we have also opportunities to do remote working, which is, we believe, a good way to promote some repopulation of rural areas. We have over 100 rural co-working spaces in Portugal, and many of them are waiting for more people to come work temporarily or permanently in these spaces. Also to study. So a lot of universities and polytechnic universities in Portuguese rural territories We have three major universities in Covilhã, Vila Real, and Évora, and overall they engage more than 50,000 students. And finally, to invest. So Portugal has national program to support the investment of Portuguese people living in other countries, so the diaspora of our country, but also some support to the Dutch people that want to maybe create a business or invest in some areas in Portugal. These opportunities and challenges were the foundations of Rural Move. So we started the Rural Move in 2020 during the pandemic, having in mind these opportunities, mainly the remote work one. And after 3 years of several activities, a lot of partnerships, we arrived at this meeting point or at our new purpose of being the meeting point of the new rurality. So the new rurality, it's everything that we talked about. So digitalization, community building, other sectors, remote working, green economy, circular economy, and also to create meeting points. I will show you some of them. So for us, this is what we need in rural areas, and that we hope to help create even more. So create meeting points, putting the local community together to think about their future and how they can promote social and economic development in their communities. We do this by making bridges between the rural communities and rural movers, empowering the communities, informing the movers, and actually connecting both worlds. We have some flagship projects like our platform, Rural Leaders Academy, where we train local leaders to be more active and more entrepreneur. Also, we will launch, I hope, a Rural Impact Hub to support social entrepreneurs in Portuguese rural areas. We have some cool rural experiences, so short-term experiences to promote co-working and co-living in rural areas, and of course our local events to get together the community, but also support movers. So these people that want to invest or move or work in rural areas, and this is actually a group of movers that moved to the north region of Portugal. Yeah, so this is our impact. Sorry, I didn't have time to translate it, but basically we have a lot of partners across the country, and also a lot of volunteers that are community builders and help us doing things on the ground. We also organized several events, and we try also to give voice to rural communities in national and international media. So we have been doing this for the last 3 years. Where we are and how can we help? We have the partnerships with over 15 municipalities, and also a lot of local partners like NGOs, youth organizations, universities, and as I said before, a lot of community builders that are volunteers and can help anyone that wants to come to one of these places. So basically, in short words, what they do is, if you want to go to one of these municipalities, and actually to others that we don't have partnerships, we put you in touch with the local person that we think it's responsible for the best way to connect with the community. How can we help, and what are we interested in? So I think that we are also an NGO, and we are kind of in a transition phase. So we want to help even more people, but also to be more structure, to have more structure inside our of organization. But yeah, so we can do a lot of things, but I will not put the complex one like peak projects, because they can be discussed further in the future. But for now, I think we can help doing this network broking. So if people want to move, study, invest, we can put you in touch with the right people to help you. And then, of course, help the soft landing. And we have done that for several Portuguese people living in the cities, and actually for some people from other countries, mainly Brazil. But we can also help to the soft landing in one of the communities that you choose. Also, I think it would be very interesting, and we had a very interesting experience with a Dutch university at the beginning of Rural Move. It's interesting to promote some mobility internships and research between the two countries. So I think we are very interested in receiving interns. I don't know, projects from universities, people that want to come to Portugal to do some research or to visit. We would love to do that, and of course, being the local partner of the activities of the Chamber of Commerce. So basically, we will try to do our best to help in Portugal the activities that they are preparing to help Dutch and Portuguese entrepreneurs. This are the topics we are interested, but of course, anything that has to do with rural development, it's very interesting for us. I put these topics of social innovation, digitalization, agrotech, because yeah, as I said, we want to think of the new rurality. So this is for us the new rurality. So yeah, I finish with this with this call to move the rural areas even more. And if you want, you have my contacts there. And yeah, and now we will learn from a case study, a practical case with Freya. She's also a local partner of Rural Move, and so she is one of the people that may help you in this case in the central region of Portugal. So let's hear Freya, and let's hope that we have more people like Freya coming to Portugal in the next few years. Thank you.
Thank you, João, and everybody else for this invitation, the Chamber of Commerce, for me to talk with you and present some of the work I've been doing here in Central Portugal since 2013. I'm going to use the websites I've created for the projects that I do as my presentation. So let me go there first. Can you see the Caminho do Dao website all right?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm just going to let this sit here and then first introduce myself a bit more. So I'm Dutch, originally from Delft, and I moved here now 11 years ago, living on the Dao River. That's the river you also see in this image, on an eco farm. And I'm, in terms of activities, I manage our small rural tourism business here at the Munhos do Dao. That's the name of the farm. It's a mill complex on the Dao River where we have guest business. I've also developed a hiking route from the source of the Dao to where the Dao meets the Mondego. And so this is a tourism activity project, tourism animation. And on this hike, I'm the guide. I developed the hike myself, and I walk with tourists and locals, which is a very enriching experience for both, as it is a cultural exchange and also, in my view, an investment in local pride, which is something that I think is very important in the rural context. So it's very much a social tourism, a community tourism project. Not only that, it is also an experience for people who walk to really see what's going on in the rural world in this part of Portugal, in terms of agriculture, in terms of forestry, in terms of the natural world. So it's also a little bit of an educational experience to see what this rural context is what's happening in the interior of Portugal. Then, together with my husband, I have also started, let me go there, a small rural property consulting business where we help people that move into rural Portugal with assessing rural property and helping understand what the implications are of moving to rural Portugal in terms of law, in terms of challenges, in terms of also the potential, and so that's another activity we've developed. And this diversity of activities will lead back later to one of the, I think, very typical, characteristics of people like myself that live in the interior of Portugal. Another project I've started developing also as a Rural Move started during the pandemic. This is the same for Ruralizar. This time of the pandemic gave space to explore things and ideas that I've been thinking about for a long time already. And in most of the work that I'm talking about here and I'm presenting is really, for me, my drive and motivation is really based on a first-hand experience of the social and economic dynamics of the rural domain that come with challenges and opportunities. And I see myself as a social entrepreneur, and also not only entrepreneur, but also let's say, well, nonprofit is not an entrepreneurial enterprise or activity. So also from a altruistic, let's say, motivation. And so Ruralizar was founded to develop activities that could support the rural communities and rural economies in facing some of the challenges that are occurring. And I think João already listed a lot of the challenges that we are aware of. There's more, but the most important ones were mentioned. And so just on the activities of Ruralizar, I'm gonna show. I can go to English here. One of the activities is the institution of a network of projects and activities that and people in the Dow watershed. So it's a bioregional network of projects that all have a motivation through sustainability and regenerative development. So this is something very important that I should mention. Ruralizar is an association that is founded to support regenerative, sustainable development in the rural context. And I'm using those two words, regenerative and sustainable. We choose regenerative because it is such a beautiful, very concrete example of what is sustainable. Well, that is regenerative is sustainable. That's why I think I personally prefer to speak of regenerative versus sustainable. And one of the challenges in the rural domain is the spread out of actors and economic agents. And so networking is incredibly important, as Rural Move also is aware of, and that's why they are developing some of the activities they are developing. We are all quite spread out, so how do we have more moments of connection where the conversations can really create a more dynamic and a dynamic that supports economic development and ideas development. So a network is incredibly important, and then to organize moments where we get together is part of that. And on that note, we have organized an event last year on the Dow River where it was called Prima Feira. So it was a fair that had music, presentations, market, a whole diverse program, which was really organized for the people that are in this watershed as actors, economic and agents, to meet, but also to present to the local population the diversity and the already existing richness of these initiatives. And it was a very successful event. It was the first event we organized of this nature, and there were a lot of local people that came to visit, which was really what we wanted. And we're trying to really tell a story of how these so-called alternative sustainable projects are contributing in such a positive way to the local economy. So that's one of the projects that we've done through Ruralizar. So then I just would like to talk a little bit about the perspective on the topic of the webinar, of my perspective, and as it was phrased, challenges and opportunities for business in the rural context. And it's interesting because I thought, okay, so the rural domain faces a number of challenges, and I really, as a social entrepreneur, like to ask the question: what a kind of opportunities do these challenges? Can businesses see in these challenges, and how can businesses, from this social entrepreneurial perspective, which is one of taking responsibility of how one as a business contributes to society's development, what can we do as a positive contribution? Because we need the rural world, and if we as economic agents don't take a very proactive, creative role in that, so many important elements of our life, food, wood, ecosystem services, the water cycle, you name it, will be at the mercy of who knows what. So we kind of couldn't guess what, but so this is something that I think is interesting to look at this question of how can we, through as businesses, support the future of the rural world. And yeah, it's not always easy to come up with to see where all the possibilities and opportunities are, because it really requires creative perspective, and then. As a business, one doesn't necessarily always have access to or knows about the local dynamics, but okay, there a partner as a Rural Move can really come in. And I just listed a few of the first ones that I see from my perspective as opportunities and possibilities for positive contributions. And one of the things that I see is a very important development here as an interest also from local municipalities is low impact mobility. And so there is just a really growing interest in, I'm talking about cycling culture, I'm talking about electric vehicles, I'm talking about increased public transport possibilities. So even though the car in Portugal is the holy cow, people also want to have alternatives from their cars. And from me as a neo-rural speaking, to be able to move around in the rural world and not be so dependent on my car, I think for a lot of people and my demographic that I represent is a very, very valuable thing. So that's one thing. The other one is, and that's also from my own perspective, I have a lot of different economic activities. And if I would be interested and I need to make X more money on an annual basis, what are my opportunities for part-time work? There is very little part-time work within the rural context. It is either, sure, you can do consulting, and that's what we started doing, but to have a diversification on the job opportunities in part-time and full-time, I think would open up a demographic for work in the rural domain. And this is maybe more a policy issue than a business development issue, but would, I think, open up would give access to a lot of high educated people living in the rural domain right now. So that's just a key element, I think. Another one is, on that note, a diversification of jobs on different levels of education. Right now, I see how do you say it, the weight being more on production, factory, manufacturing work that is being promoted here, which makes sense in a certain way. But also, I think if we want a more diverse social tissue here in the rural domain, which would help with the dynamic economic development, to have more of a, let's say, without any judgment, load of highly educated job opportunities is important. Then on the bioeconomy and rural economy that is related to natural resources, in respect also of those natural resources, there is, I think, a big untapped potential for production, artisanal work, and tourism, very much related to local rural qualities and resources. And so that's really, I'm talking about wood, I'm talking about certain plants, I'm talking about really those specific regional ecological and natural qualities. And there's a lot of, I think, highly educated Portuguese that know what those qualities are of these different regions, that like the Dow region is a specific bioregion. It has its own quality. I don't know if I have, how much time do I have? 5 more minutes, or what's the...
We still have 5 to 10 minutes left.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So we, in our work as consultants on rural property, and also now having lived here for 11 years, I have quite a network of so-called neo-rurals, and we are seeing a ever-growing number of people from North of Europe, America, South Africa, Australia, Israel, so many and often highly educated people moving into rural Portugal. And that is in terms of the profile, people choose to live here because one can afford to buy a property in which one can live in nature, in a nice house, in a safe place. And, these are probably things you are also aware of. And so people are buying quintas and living sometimes in a village, and often coming with, like I mentioned, highly educated. This is also a demographic that probably cannot afford full-time work because they all have a quinta, so they live on a farm, but are highly educated, and I think that this is a demographic and a number that João also mentioned, a number of Dutch people living in Holland already. It's interesting that you have that number, because where did you find that number, João? Because I asked the embassy one time and they didn't know how many Dutch people were living in Portugal.
I have the source there. It's the Portuguese government.
Okay, good.
Yeah. But I will put it in the chat. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, I think that there's, in terms of people to work with, for, let's say, a Dutch business that wants to invest, there is a mix between, of course, the Portuguese on the labor market, and also Dutch and people from a lot of different nationalities. So that is just good to know that there's this. So there's a brain drain on the one hand, but there's the opposite movement happening at the same time. It's just that people are from a different country. So, and this is also just this 21st century moving of people that is just, I think, gonna only grow. This may be a strange one, but what I find interesting, and I think this is an issue with a lot of places, not just in Portugal, but there's a very limited possibilities for renting houses. That's why co-working spaces are so good, I think. But I think there's an opportunity, or in terms of economic development in the rural context, the housing offer, if that becomes more diversified, and maybe there's a business opportunity there, that would actually really fill a gap. So there's a need for that. So if there's a need, there could be maybe possibly economic development possibility for that. João also mentioned partnerships with institutions of higher education is also, I see, as I have contacts with Politécnico in Viseu. So this is what do we call that? A higher professional education. Yes, that would be the description in English, I guess. Not a university, but a technical university is the word, I guess. And the value of cultural exchange and the development of young people in these collaborations and partnerships with institutions of higher education, I think, in terms of business development, and would also be a very positive contribution. It would help with that. And maybe finally, as I have developed this Caminho do Dão project as a activity for tourists, and not only that visit the region, there is, in terms of tourism, a good number of beds, but in terms of activities and animation, there is a lot of opportunities still, which could really also help with the development of these rural areas, because it would actually provide people with the possibility to experience the rural place that they find themselves. So yeah, that was what I had to share, and open for questions. Thank you again so much for this opportunity, and I hope we can contribute to positive development in the rural world together.
Awesome. Thank you very much. On that note, and as you said, and pretty well, if the audience has any questions, sorry, and now it's the moment to ask to both João and Freya.
I guess I can just comment two things about Freya's intervention, because it was really good to hear, and basically, I mean, the idea behind Rural Move is to find and help as best as we can more Freyas, because we are not doing a job. No, we are not being a local organization. We want to help people like Freya build these dynamics in local ones, and of course that we bring a success case to this webinar. But we know a lot of people trying to do the same things in other territories, creating events, building cultural dynamics. But the thing is that in rural areas they struggle a lot, because they don't have the resources, sometimes the support, they don't have enough stakeholders and investors to these dynamics. So we try to, by giving mentorship and by giving network, actually improve the number of people that have this passion and this motivation to help rural areas to be more, let's say, successful in their goals. Yeah, and another note I think what was very interesting is that we can learn a lot from the Netherlands. So Freya talked about the low carbon mobility or green mobility. Yeah, we have several problems regarding public transports in rural areas, and I think anyone living in a rural area is totally dependent, almost totally dependent on car, because the public transport, we don't have. I mean, we don't have trains in most of the rural municipalities, and the culture of using bike to work or to move around is not that much in Portugal, but it's growing, as Frey said. But what this means is that we have a lot of opportunities also for social entrepreneurs, for Dutch social entrepreneurs, to bring new ideas to Portugal in this mobility side, but also in social entrepreneurship or support. I mean, in other in agrotech and and agro industry. That Netherlands is also very innovative. So yeah, so that was my second note on what Freya said.
Right. So thank you very much for your addition information. Actually, very clever and very crucial points that all of you, Freya and João, you shared with us. I think that I got inspired. I don't know what am I doing here in the Netherlands. I should go back to Portugal for the rural area and start making a real impact. But on a serious note, we, on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, would like to thank you massively for your awareness, most important, and also the impact that you already are having in the Portuguese rural areas over the past years. I'd just like to give a final note that this is the first series, the first episode of a series of this webinar focused on the regional economy. So please keep an eye on our LinkedIn page and further announcements, because this won't be the last episode touching upon this very relevant topic. And to conclude, this webinar will also be uploaded in our YouTube page. We will share the contact details also and the website initiatives with all the participants and the registrations that we have received so far, so that we can encourage and start building a more present community between Portugal and the Netherlands to enhance these rural areas. So thank you so much. Don't know if you have some final words. What is yours?
Yeah, I had a question.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Albert Penninkel from Greece. I'm a Portuguese person that has lived for 5 years in the Porto area. My wife's Portuguese. We have our own little business here that's is starting to focus on selling artisanal or semi-artisanal products here in Holland, mainly for dressing up interiors. So it can be usual, of course, because that's why artisanal products are being made in the first place. But we find it very difficult to actually find producers of these kind of products because they're in the rural area, and they don't. Yeah, of course, Portugal, I know, has a quite a adhesive to internet, quite connected to it. but it seems that these kind of businesses are not really present. So I find it really difficult to find small to medium size artisanal persons that make products with the basis in the past, maybe adapted with a machine or two to actually be a bit more productive, but can supply with good quality products. Is there any way that there's a list or a website that you can direct me towards, or is it literally networking, and hope you find someone?
Well, I have two ideas. Do you know of the National Association that supports craftspeople in Portugal?
I think I've come across it, but even then, you just get an address and not even a telephone number. So it's literally to try to establish at least a spring up network from the start from here in Portugal is very difficult. And we're what 2 times a year in Portugal, once in the summer, once in Christmas. So it becomes very difficult.
Yeah, I think that that this might be a starting point, this association supporting Portuguese craftspeople. And then there's a number of Portuguese businesses that have the same focus, like A Vida Portuguesa is a very famous one. And they have contacts with, I think, the businesses that you are looking for that can have consistent production.
Starting with a small number, of course, but when it grows, that you can actually start relying on them.
Yeah, but the ones that are supplying to A Vida Portuguesa are already in production, and so maybe that's a good partner also.
That's a nice store, by the way.
Yeah.
I can add. I mean, answering directly your question is network. But we have some. We have engaged with some people, mainly in the rural field. But I mean, they are local artisans. I can send it to you. I send it to you one actually big project in the mountains of Portugal with Burel. But yeah, I would suggest just to not get lost, to send us an email, because one of our executive board members is actually a product designer working with all this kind of stuff, so he will know. But I don't know any database or any I don't know, and I probably there isn't any database. So yeah.
Thank you.
Any more questions, observations?
If I may ask a question, just from the perspective of the Chamber of Commerce, what are the areas of activity or focus that you might have when it comes to the rural world? Is there like I don't know, a policy or a intention declaration, or I don't know, just to hear a bit about that if there's time.
Well, I can talk a little bit about that. I think we, by partnering with Rural Move, have sort of shown that we care intensely about the rural economy, because, like I say, it's an often neglected part of the economy, and it is the part of the economy that most people come into contact with most of the time. Most people live in not it's the larger portion of the country, so most people will come into this contact more often. We are committed and dedicated to trying to foster more good economy. We here in the Netherlands have a saying which is doing business and doing good, and that's something which we take on very deeply within the chamber. So by trying to revitalize these rural communities, by trying to bring more people like yourself down there, to bring new projects, to talk about social tourism, that's us attempting to to really revitalize these communities, because we see this around the world. It's not just in Portugal, but these smaller rural communities are depopulating and they're dying out. And it's a shame because you lose local cultures, local customs, local foods, local things that make a country what it is and that give a rural area its real feeling, that make people from the urban areas want to travel there in internal tourism. So it's not so much that we have one specific area that we're targeting. We're trying to revitalize these areas so that the entire feeling of going to these rural areas remains a special experience, so that it isn't just a less populated part of the urban environment, but it's really something different and worth visiting. But then, of course, there's always the answers that these rural economies do have much more to do with the agriculture generally. They've got more natural resource integrated economies a lot of the time. So exactly like Albert talks about with the artisanal produce that's produced, I know that there's a lot of fur, a lot of agriculture, a lot of crops, that sort of thing, which tends to be in these rural economies. And that's absolutely perfect to promote. But for us, it's really about making these rural economies revitalize. And that's why we try and support Rural Move wherever we can, because it's such an important endeavor to not let them die out. I believe Xavier has been trying to close us for a while now, and I see his finger is on the trigger. So I'm going to give it back to him and let him do his thing over there.
No, not at all. Actually, I don't mind. All the conversations is very fruitful, very interesting. So I was not here, of course, pressing at all. But once again, I believe that we reached the end of this webinar. Hopefully, and for sure, it won't be the last one. Let's keep this community going on. And as I said before, I will also share with all the participants and some people that unfortunately for certain reasons couldn't join. We will share the recorded session so that eventually if there is any match or if there is any interest of collaboration, these people can also approach you directly. So this is it. And thank you so much, João and Freya.